Rest assured, Carol, we will figure out what makes you different
Figure it out. Why?
so you can join us.
What the
What's up, everybody? So last weekend I was feeling some type of way and I was like, all right, I gotta distract myself somehow. And I remembered that everybody was talking about the show Pluribus, and I was like, all right, let me check it out, see what's up with it, see if it's even worth my time. And I ended up binge watching the entire series. So I wanted to kind of talk about like my journey with it, and just how, like, kind of what I felt about it. I'm gonna start off spoiler free. If you want spoilers, just skip forward. I'll put the time stamp down below. But if you haven't heard about Pluribus, or maybe you haven't checked it out, and like you heard about it, but like what is this? Basically the show is an alien virus bacteria, I don't really know what to classify it as, takes over pretty much all of Earth, like 99% of Earth. And of course not everyone, I mean, this is like the most minor thing because it kind of sets up the show. Not everyone ends up being infected by this. There is like a little small handful of people that aren't, and one of these people is our main character, Carol. And so she comes to find out that in this virus or whatever taking over everybody, it turns everyone into a hive mind. So everyone's now connected mentally from pretty much the entire world. And of course, she is not on board with this. She wants everything to go back to normal. And that is kind of where the show leads. Now, that being said, I feel like the first episode is really good. It sets up everything. It has this weird and like apocalyptic feel to it. But if you are going to check the show out, I do recommend watching episode 2, because episode 2 is really where I feel like this is what the show is. Like the first one is a great setup, but episode 2 is like, this is what the rest of the show is going to be. So if you're in, like you're in. If not, I feel like episode 2 is kind of the litmus test of whether this is going to be your vibe. That being said, I was like, all right, so you got this lady who has to deal with everyone being connected. Turns to find out that they as in the the hive mind, wants to have everyone who's not connected, and they are like programmed to like care about Carol. They're like, we want to take care of like anything you need, like we got you, just let us know. And so I'm like, all right, how do you stretch this out for a whole season? How do you make this interesting? And what I found was Carol's ability and inability to be around them. Like she like hates them, but she can't like let them go. I think I ended up being like, oh, this is kind of like a toxic relationship, except Carol's one of like probably the most toxic of the both of them because of just like how she acts, but at the same time she like can't. Okay, wait. Let me back up. So without getting into the whole like alien part of it, right? It feels like when two people, like, you have one person that's really bad for the other person, right? And that's Carol for like these people, and it's like there's nothing really wrong with them, but Carol just like can't let them go. Like there's no reason for them to metaphorically break up, that they broke up in the first place. It's just that like they just don't work, right? And so it makes Carol seem like the bad person. But what makes this more interesting is the fact that no, this is a virus that wants everyone to join it. So even though it is like, oh no, like I'll take care of you and I'll do what you want and yada yada yada, at the end of the day, right, it wants everyone to be a part of it. So they're toxic too. So it's like, okay, like there's like neither of them are good for each other. But again, I think as you meet more of people that aren't attached, you kind of find the different levels of like how everyone is dealing with this. And Carol is like at the bottom, but she's not at all the way at the bottom. And so there is this like, she keeps being like, oh, I don't want you guys around. I want everything back to normal, yada yada yada. But she like doesn't fully push them away. She keeps interacting with the hive mind. And so I think that's what really gripped me, is that she has this like get away from me but stay here type thing. That's what I mean, is like, that's why it's like so toxic. Is she's just like, no, but like don't go too far, but don't be too close either, you know, like 6 feet apart. And I was like, okay. But again, how do you stretch this out for a season? And the thing I found was just the way that Carol sucks at communicating, and she is so she's so like frustrating to watch, because even if she wanted to set things back to normal, it's almost like she doesn't take the steps necessary to figure out how to even get there, even though she really could. Because again, they want like whatever you want, they want to give it to you. And but her being like, I don't want you, but like don't go too far, is just a lot of like, Carol, like you gotta do better. Like there's even a part where, you know, she meets one of the people who aren't connected, and they say just a simple line of like, why haven't you asked them anything? Like you haven't asked them anything. Like, and it's like, yeah, Carol, why haven't you like been trying to like figure some stuff out? And that was the thing that like really kept coming, like having me come back to each episode. It's just like, Carol, you're so frustrating to watch, and I don't know like what you're gonna do. And you know, when you have this premise, it almost feels like a zombie story of like, well, you know, either the thing's gonna go away and everything goes back to normal, or, you know, she's ultimately gonna end up joining, or maybe there's some third thing I haven't thought about. But like, it seems very you know, kind of narrow. And I found myself enjoying the series all the way up into the final episode. I feel like the final episode, I was a little apprehensive of like, okay, well, how are you going to land this plane, and then land this plane enough that I'm going to want a whole nother season of this? I think that it got there in the way I wasn't expecting. I was actually really worried for where the last episode was gonna go, just because of what Carol decides to do. But I liked the way that they were able to wrap around and come back to you know, leading into a further season. So yeah, I think if you're going into the show, again, I think the first episode is really gonna, you know, grab you, because it is the setup for this kind of you know, apocalyptic feeling event. But the show itself is a lot of you know, talking and sitting with emotions, and Carol's inability to communicate and figure things out, and, you know, her whole again, toxic relationship of just like, get away from me but not too far. And, you know, it's all this. And you also kind of feel for her, because you can kind of see where she's coming from, and through things that keep happening, you know, it feels like she is kind of on her own, and it's kind of lonely. I can't really say too much without spoiling it, but yeah, it was just like a very interesting premise for this show, and I just found myself each time just like coming back and back, and yeah, I ended up binging the whole thing. I will say, again, real quick, pre-spoilers, that I'm interested where another season would go, but I can't see this show going past like several seasons. I really hope that, you know, if they did sit down and write like, okay, how do we end this? That this is one of those shows that's like, hey, we had 2 seasons, maybe 3 seasons mapped out, and that's it. You're not getting any more. I really feel like we don't need, you know, especially because Stranger Things just ended a couple weeks ago, I think. You know, sometimes you can just tell like the story was supposed to end here, and we just kept dragging it. And I'm really hoping that this show has like maybe 2, maybe 3 seasons, depending on how the next one goes. This isn't one of those like, all right, we're on season 6, but this is one of those shows where I recommend to someone and I'm like, hey, just stop at this season. This is kind of where it feels like it ended. You really don't need to watch the rest of it. So yeah, I enjoyed what I watched. Again, I do recommend, if you're gonna check it out, season or episode 2 will be kind of like, this is what the rest of the show is gonna kind of be, and I feel like episode 1 is just kind of like the big setup for it. All right, so I am going to get into spoilers. So if you don't want anything spoiled, now is your time to get on out of here. All right, so get ready. All right, so spoilers. I was worried. We'll start at the end because I always like to start at the last episode because it's supposed to be in the, most interesting. When Carol was like, all right, I'm gonna go with her lady. I'm blanking on her name for some reason. Zosha. When she was like, oh, I'm gonna go with Zosha, and they were like, oh, having a little montage of like them on the beach, taking a bath and blah blah blah. I was like, I don't like this. What I originally wanted, we'll get to the actual ending. What I originally wanted was that she was gonna go off, and then homeboy, I forget how to pronounce his name, was gonna somehow get the dude that he had on the couch out of the trance, and then that guy was gonna be normal, and then it would have been Carol being like, okay, do I now live this happy but fake life, or do I continue down my original path of freeing everyone? And maybe that would have been too strong, because then it would be like, okay, well then she definitely has to like stay. But I did like that at the end, right? So they're having that great time, and Carol figures out that, oh, I froze my eggs, which you have, and now you have a way to create the steam or whatever to get me to join you. And that's what you ultimately want to do. And Zosha's like, yo, of course we want you to join. For us, like, we're on this higher level of being, and we're trying to get you up here. We see like you as this like lower thing, and we're trying to like raise you up. You know what I mean? And she's like, don't you understand? Like, I love you. Like, why would you ask me to do this? To get you tell that this wouldn't make me happy? And they're like, we're trying to get you to understand how happy you would be if you joined us. And
If you loved me, you wouldn't do this.
Carol, please understand. We have to do this because we love you. Because I love you.
that was the part I was just like, oh, okay, I get how we got back to it. I was like, all right, I was a little worried, but we turned the plane around, and it worked out. Her getting an atom bomb, I was like, I don't really know if those two really need that, but okay, I get it. We're on the we're back on track, everybody. And the fact that he is like researching all the like magnetic waves and all that other stuff, I feel like maybe if they can figure out the signal and do like an EMP, maybe they can like, at least take out an area and reset some people. And I think having people come back would be so interesting, because then it's kind of like the Matrix of like, well, one is like, what is it like for them? Do they even remember? And then 2, it's like, are some people going to be like, all right, pull me back in? Or is everyone going to be like, no, I'm out? And I'm like, okay, so that's what I'm saying, is like, I could see like how you can do like 2 or 3 seasons, but I'm really hoping if the show goes well, that this isn't like, oh, we're on season 6 and like, what are we doing anymore? But yeah, so when it comes to the people that were all like I was saying before, you get the different varieties of people and how they're feeling about this. Again, I think it's so interesting that Carol was like, no, but like, yes, because, homeboy, I should have looked up his name. He was just like, I don't want anything to do with you. They kept bringing him food. He was pushing it off. He ate dog food. Like, this man was like, I want nothing to do with you. No, don't talk to me. Don't look at me. Like,
Nada en este planeta es de ustedes. Nada. No pueden darme nada, porque todo lo que ustedes tienen es robado. Ustedes no pertenecen acá.
He's ready to kill people. For him, he's like, these people are dead if we don't save them. They're just like husks, you know what I mean? He's like paying for gas and stuff. Like, he's at the opposite end where you thought like Carol was really like, oh, I'm not with this. But again, her inability to like fully let them go, and even her begging them to come back, is just like, no. Again, she's like, get away, but not too far. I still need you. And you can't really blame her, because, you know, life is lonely, let alone the existence that she's having, where she's just like the only one, because none of the other ones want to talk to her, because she originally wanted everything to go back to normal, and everyone's like, no, this is it. I'm loving this. I found it so weird that the people that were on the opposite end of the spectrum, that were just like, oh yeah, and like, I my family's like this, and I want this. This seems great. You're just, I don't know. I sympathize with Carol in the fact of, I just can't wrap my head around like having my family around, but also they're like everyone. You know what I mean? Like, I could be like, how do I fix my car? And they're like, oh yeah, let me let Richard take over, and he's gonna tell you how to. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, are you at that point anymore? And I feel like if they even, I don't know. I just feel like, because the people I know would be acting most likely out of character, that I think it just wouldn't sit with me, and I'd be like, I can't do this. But granted, we didn't see like the day-to-day of those people and how they act, but like, everyone has that like, yes, of course, like, did you know that blah 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 blah, and it's like, I don't like that. Anytime the Carol is like passing by, and there's like the other guy's name, and you know, there's like 10 of them or whatever, and they're like, hey, all at the same time, I was like, I don't this doesn't sit with me well. And I feel like that's the point. But also, I was watching this YouTube video of this guy kind of explaining the Peruvian girl, or wherever she was from, the one who ends up joining, and we see her, how they kind of emotionally manipulate you by putting on this display. They're like, oh, singing for her as she's about to like take her first whiff and join them, and you know, kind of like calming her and giving her like this nurturing like sense of home, until she takes the actual thing and joins them, and then the music stops, and then they all just kind of like stand there and wait for her to be part of the unit. And then as she becomes part of the unit, then they all just kind of like, you know, do the little disperse and move robotically. And she opens the cage to let all the goats out. And, you know, the little baby goat that she was holding before, you know, runs up to her like, hey, like, where are you going? And then she just like looks, she doesn't even look back. She just like straight ahead and walks away.
The moment Kusumayo inhales the vapor and her body seizes, the performance ends. The singing stops instantly. They lay her down in a blanket, one final gesture of care, and then the family dynamic evaporates into utilitarian silence. No one is talking anymore. No one is singing. All the rituals are gone. Everything is just silence. They stand there, waiting, wordless, until her eyes open with that wide, empty smile. This proves that the benevolence was utility. The warmth Carol feels from Zosha is the same simulation, the same comfort subroutine. Once the target is acquired, the lure becomes irrelevant. And then comes the scene that nearly broke me. Kusumayu, now part of the collective, opens the pen. The black and white baby goat, her companion, her pet, the animal she was just cradling with love minutes ago, comes running out. The goat runs toward her, crying and desperate. It wants its mommy, and Kusumayo walks away, never glancing back at it. She doesn't pause or look down. She doesn't acknowledge this creature that loved her. She just smiles that Benked smile and goes back to work like her friend never existed.
And it's just like, oh, clearly that's like, I don't know, it just doesn't feel right, you know what I mean? Homeboy, the French dude, he He got some things right, you know what I'm saying? Would I want a harem of women? No. But would I say, hey, I'm looking for these things. You know a girl like that? And they'd be like, yeah, sure. When in Rome, you know what I'm talking about? But I would be like, I was thinking about it. I was like, oh, what if I was in this situation, right? And I'm like, okay, I'm obviously going to want like some specific cars. You know what I mean? Although I'm a little weird. I like Mustangs and stuff. I'd be like, hey, can you give me an Impala that looks like the one from Supernatural? You know what I'm saying? Like, cool stuff like that. Let me get an Akira bike. But then also, I feel like there's, it's almost like you're retired. So I'm like, all right, what would I like to do? And it'd be like, oh, there's some skills I've always wanted to learn. I would be like, okay, you got a welder in there? Let me teach me how to like make some metal stuff or whatever. You're gonna say, oh, you know how to do this martial art? Like, all right, let's train every morning, or stuff like that. Like, I think like, oh, cool. Teach me how to like fly a plane. Yeah, and I think that's how I'd like to keep myself busy. Would I join? Hells no. I don't want to be a part of a collective, because then I also wonder like, how do you? I can't imagine like how you think. Like, do you just like fade into consciousness, or like I don't know, it's weird to even try to conceptualize. So I am more on, I think ultimately I would be like that guy, but I think I'd slowly turn into Carol. Like, I'd be like, get away from me, but also like I want like white pizza. Can you make me like a white pizza that's like from this place? I know you got a guy in there that's probably worked at like the store. I want, let me get the Chinese food from this place. You got a guy in there or somebody like that, whip it up. So yeah, I don't know how long I don't know how long before they do some sort of trickery to get one over on me. But getting back to the show, the thing that really pissed me off. Okay, so Carol does the thing, right? She tries to get the answer out of them. How do I turn everyone back? And she tries to force it out of Zosha, and it just doesn't work. And they're like, "Oh, whatever, we're breaking up with you," and they go away. And I was like, "Oh, I wonder if." At first, I was like, "Oh, how petty of them," or like it kind of makes sense, but I didn't know that they could be petty like that to be like, "We're giving you the silent treatment." But now I was thinking about it, especially after that video I was talking about earlier. I was like, oh, I wonder if that was emotional manipulation of them being like, oh, well, she's going to get lonely. We know her. So we're just going to leave her alone until she's like, until she's like, oh, come on back. Or if they just know, or if they did feel some type of way. Interesting. I wonder if season 2 will kind of get into that. But what I was going to say was that Carol pisses them off, and then she has that what feels super long voicemail.
Hello, Carol.
Hey, where did everybody...
This is a recording. At the tone, you can leave a message to request anything you might need. We'll do our best to provide it. Our feelings for you haven't changed, Carol. But after everything that's happened, we just need a little space.
And, they're not talking to her, and then she's having that problem with the coyotes or whatever. And I was like, girl, why don't you just be like, hey, I have a coyote problem. I need you to bring some stuff to solve it. Also, make the voicemail shorter. Hey, we're mad at you, but if you need anything, like, hit us up. They gave, like, there was, like, a whole paragraph every time, and she's, like, waiting for it. I'd be like, make it shorter. Like, I get it, you're mad. Whatever, I need help with this, come do it. You know what I'm saying? So that was like, I was like, Carol, just ask them to make the thing shorter. Like, what are we talking about? But when she meets the other people and they're like, why don't you ask questions? I was like, exactly, Carol, you want to turn everybody back. Why don't you start getting some information? You have the whole whiteboard.
You don't ask them what it's like?
No.
How could you not ask them what it's like?
Raise your hand if you ask them. You sit there and you tell us, we must do this, we must do that, but you don't even bother to educate yourself.
But you're never asking, like, how do you feel about this? And what do you feel about that? She doesn't start doing that until the end. But then at the end, she starts to also fall in love with Zosha. So it's like, you're not even on the right track, you know what I'm saying? Whereas, you get the other guy, and he's like in it. He's like asking them, he's like screaming at the dude, making them all like mess up, and trying to use that wave he found to figure everything out. I'm like, okay, he's like super paranoid, and the fact that he was like, "Oh, come in the ambulance," is like, brother, I ain't going nowhere with you. That's a weird thing to say. But let's go under the umbrella. They can't, track us that way. It was a good time. I think the most interesting thing when I really reflect on the show is just the way that the hive mind, the pluribus, my brain went blank. Oh, is so emotionally manipulative that the way that even from the jump they send a girl that looks like Carol's character from the book, who was supposed to originally be female.
What the hell is this? Are you supposed to be my character, Raban? Why?
If we chose poorly, we apologize. We just want you to be happy.
And has her hang around all the time, and it's like, Carol, they already know what you like, and they send it to you. So no wonder you fell in love with this character, because it is a character that she's essentially putting on, and they're just like, there for your every women need. I am waiting to see if the other ones are gonna fall in line. I forget, because I think they asked them, and I forget what the answer was of like how many are like, yeah, we'll join. Because we only seen the one join. I'm interested to see if the French guy will eventually come around, because he's like, no, but is he gonna get to a point where there is some sort of loophole for them to make the thing and kind of give it to them in a way? Like, oh, is it gonna be like season 2 where, oh, we figured out how to make this from the guy has a harem of women, like, oh, we were able to make this from the guy's sperm, and well, we can't give it to you, but technically if we leave the canister out and you just happen to walk by and huff it in, then you're part of the team now. So I wonder how, not benevolent, but like how peaceful these things are going to be until things really ramp up of like, we gotta get these things out now. And yeah, it was a good show. I found myself again just continuously watching each episode. I'm glad that they were able to land the ending. Again, I would probably be the French dude until I probably would like turn into Carol. But yeah, I'm my biggest thing is just seeing how they could possibly make season 2 interesting and keep the story going, and just get us to a place where hopefully there is a clear ending, and then that's it, we're done. I don't know what else to talk about. I'm just gonna leave it there. Let me know what you think about Pluribus, if you enjoyed the season, if you even watched it, and maybe what you're thinking about getting into season 2. But yeah, that's what I think. All right, don't forget to subscribe. Peace.